Okay, so remember when we were doing our P's and X's, I had two photos in this scene that were both a little overexposed, and I took them out and I was going to show you why. That's when we can get into the syncing, because that's when you can edit just this one first photo and apply the same effect to the rest of them. If you do the first two photos, you can't apply that same effect because your settings were different. So that's, I use that a lot out on location. You know, when you get to the scene you like, make sure that you're just shooting them in the same exposure, just to help you out on the back end. Now we have our last two photos at the end. This is when we talked about Vibrance a little bit earlier. So see how we have some red flowers around here? Not only turn up our greens just a little bit, you might want to turn up your reds here too. See that difference there? That little difference is going to make a huge difference on your prints. Now when you're working with reds and oranges though, you always want to look at their skin tones. You might have some people, say you turn up your oranges, you have some orange flowers, it might make their skin look very hard and very orange, or the same for reds. Just kind of keep that in mind. And if it does make their skin look a little rough or look too orange, just turn it back down. Alright, so that is how we applied just a really quick color correction, fixed our white balance, did a little color pop, and see how quickly we have our photos edited by doing that process. So what we're going to do next, I'm just going to go through my photos and I'm going to see if there's anything that stands out in the photos that I don't want there. This is where we're going to be using our cloning tool. Great example. That blue bucket, your customer's not going to want to see that in the picture. Not the blue one anyway. If it was maybe a rustic bucket that kind of went with the scenery, I would leave it in there. Not this blue one though. So see what I'm going to do? I'm just going to come over here to this clone tool. I turn my feather up a good bit whenever I'm using this clone tool because it makes soft edges. I'm actually going to turn it down here because I still see a little bit of blue. So then what I do is close it and just kind of take a look. See how we don't even see that bucket now? Unless they remember it was there, they are never going to know that I took a bucket out of the picture. So this one here, I have a little less space I feel like, so let me show you something I'm going to do here. I can't get it in one big clone stamp, so I'm going to go do two lines. I'll show you what I'll do. See how that just covers it up? Because you can move your clones around after you get them there. And keep in mind when you're shooting, the best thing is really to not shoot something in the background that you don't want in the picture. But sometimes it happens. You might find a great spot and there's just that one ugly thing in the picture that we know we can take out. But just try to keep that in mind whenever you're shooting. And the reason is to keep your edit time down. So I'm just kind of doing a quick check here. This picture's fine, but I don't like the metal wire, and I don't like this. Looks like a piece of trash back here. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to come and hit that real quick and just take those two things out of the picture. Your clone tool is pretty good as well. Sometimes it'll just go pick up in the right spot to cover up what you're trying to cover up. See, same thing here. Great picture. I just don't, that looks like trash to me, and it might be, I don't know. We're just going to take that out of the picture. And this is where I talked about how I keep my, I generally like to have my feather up on about 80. Because let me show you, if you don't turn your feather up, what's going to happen, how hard it's going to look. See those hard lines? That doesn't look good. You don't want that. So by turning your feather up, we've got a nice blended clone that we're now applying to the picture. Now granted, this is a blurred background, so it by no means has to be perfect. Because guess what, if it's not absolutely perfect and the customer wants to print it, you can always go touch up those little spots before the print. We don't know if she's going to want to print this one, so that's why we just want to keep a quick edit on here. Things that your customer prints, that's what you're going to look at, take a little bit of a closer look at. So I have actually put that on her jacket because I know I'm going to move it. Just going to try to get that little spot right there. There we go. So you're just going to move right along and check the rest of the pictures. And when you're trying to decide what to do to a picture, to present it to your customer, just kind of think, what I usually think to myself is, would the client want to buy this picture if they saw it? You know, for example, the blue buckets that I took out of the picture from the first scene. They're going to see those blue buckets. They're not going to want to print that or buy it because of those blue buckets. So I'm going to go in there and take that out real quick. All right, what I'm doing here, I see just a little something right there. It might have been a bug that flew in front of the photo when we were shooting. I'm not sure, but I want to take a look at it. So let me show you actually how I did that. We're going to come over to this square and use the drop-down box here, and 2-1-3-1 is going to bring it in a little closer for you, and then you can take your tool here and just kind of bring it up like that. See, now that I have brought that in further, I can tell that was a bug flying in front of the picture. But let's just say maybe she had a blemish or something. You don't want to deliver photos to your clients with a blemish on them. They're not going to like that. They're not going to want to buy it. You always want to retouch that simple stuff. That's called what we call basic edit. So let's just say that this was a pimple. I'm going to come over and instead of the clone tool, I'm going to use the heal tool because this heal tool is really good at picking up your skin tones and just going through and doing a quick hit on any blemishes somebody might have. So I'm just going to adjust my size. And remember, like I said, keep that feather up so it blends. And watch this. See how if that was a pimple, it's no more? I can still see a little spot here, so I'm just going to do one more spot to blend it. And then you can hit the close tool. I can see one more spot down there, so I'm just going to go blend that a little bit. And you know, it's something, I'm going to blend it a little better, but it's probably something that the customer wouldn't even notice, but I can notice. And we see how we just took that right out of the picture, just using that heal tool really quickly there. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. Just kind of finishing up my spot check, just double checking that I didn't miss anything, that I like, in general, I like the color tone that I've applied. Another thing I'm catching up here, I can see a little bit of a tail light or a car in the background. So I'm just going to kind of come and hit a light clone tool. I just don't like how that looks there, so I'm just going to kind of get that out of the background. Same thing here, I can see a little bit of my car in the background. Just going to do a light clone tool. All right, so what we've did at this point, we've applied a color correction. We've went through and taken out anything in the picture that just looked like an eyesore. So really our photos are ready, but what we need to do now is name them. Name them, file them, export them. So I'm going to show you how to do all that. So what we want to do is hit Edit, and we're going to select all of them. We're going to come to the Library tab, because this is where you're going to name your photos and you're going to want to apply your metadata. And we have another video out there that it's going to go in more in depth about metadata and how to build that into Lightroom. But so we have a preset. You can name your preset for your metadata whatever you like. But I have one for Iris Magic High School Seniors. I'm going to apply that to all the photos. And then my file name. So whatever filing system you've chosen. So I've put that under the file name, but I also put it under the title too. Then I'm going to click Sync Metadata. Now I know this is more about metadata, but this is very important to always make sure that your photos are copyrighted right here. Just always make sure that that says copyrighted. And now we're ready to export our photos. So you want to export them to your computer. You don't want to export them to a backup drive or a finished drive or anything like that, because you take the chance of something going corrupt. Just always export them right to your computer. So I just do it to my pictures folder, then I move them afterwards. And I'm going to name this the same thing that I named the file, actually. And whenever I export them, I want my quality up as high as it can be. We export in sRGB because that is the color space that you're going to want for your printing. We don't want to resize these particular pictures, and we don't want to put a watermark on these. So now that those are ready, we're just going to click Export. Okay, so for my next round though, I'm going to export a folder with watermark copies, because if my client does insist on having digital copies, if they put any on social media, my studio has a policy that it must be a watermark copy. That's just going to protect everyone if your photo is watermarked. So what I'm going to do, after the folder, I'm just going to put watermark. I'm turning my quality down a little bit. You don't have to, but I upload them to an online gallery, which I do need to turn my quality down, so that's why I'm doing that. I don't want to export 3 folders. I don't want to export a watermark folder, then a folder for upload. I just do one folder. I'm going to change my height and my size. Again, that's for my online gallery. And then